Hi, I'm Erin Lundy.
And I'm Madeline Walden, and this is
Aquarium of the Podcific,
a podcast brought to you by Aquarium of the Pacific, Southern California's largest aquarium.
Join us as we learn alongside the experts in animal care, conservation, and more.
Welcome back to Aquarium of the Podcific. I'm Madeline Walden, the aquarium's digital content and community manager.
And I'm Erin Lundy, conservation coordinator for mammals and birds.
I'm very excited for today's episode. We are going to talk to aviculturist Heather Penns, and we're also going to hear from a very special guest, I think our first animal guest on the podcast.
I think so.
His name is Lola.
His name is Lola. He is a good bird. Lola, if you haven't guessed, is one of our birds that we have here at the aquarium, and he is actually a program or ambassador animal. What that means is that Lola is a very special animal who goes out and interacts with guests and also does shows, and in that way actually provides a lot of educational messaging, but it kind of provides some context to why we should care about some of these conservation messages. And so Heather is bringing Lola in, which we're very excited to have a bird in the studio. It's a good time.
I know, we're so excited. What kind of bird is Lola?
Lola is a sulfur-crested cockatoo, and you will hear in the episode, or you won't hear in the episode, because Lola, it turns out, was very shy during
he was shy today.
He was very, very shy, and that's okay. Birds can be shy, and to be honest, in a totally silent green room in a recording studio, I can understand why.
It took me a while to get used to it. I get it.
The lack of external sound must be very strange for an animal. So although Lola was very shy during our interview in the studio, we do have some really cute audio clips of Lola externally.
A post-interview.
A post-interview
rundown.
We had to do a
debrief.
A debrief with Lola and be like, how did you feel
What did you think about that episode? And he had a lot to say. I'm excited for you all to hear it.
Lola is one of the cutest ambassador birds, and I'm not biased or anything. I do see him a lot, and he is often going out and meeting guests, and he makes people laugh.
Oh, he cracks me up.
I don't think I ever really realized that birds can be funny, and I actually think he's being funny
He's
to
being
get
funny
a
on
reaction.
purpose, for sure. He knows it.
Because when you laugh, then he just makes fun of your laugh, and that's extra funny. So he's an amazing bird.
Just being in a quiet office and hearing, hello?
Yep, and he's just trying to talk to himself. He does say, I love you, and he says, I think, hi, Lola, mostly.
Hi, Lola.
That's like a big one for him. So we're
Shark.
pretty stoked. Shark.
It goes like that, too.
And then he imitates a sea lion. He does a lot of different things.
You'll hear it. It's way better when he does it, I promise.
It doesn't sound so terrible when a bird is doing it. But in addition to Lola as a wonderful guest, Heather Penns is one of our aviculturists who has been instrumental in training some of these animals to participate in different, face-to-face interactions with guests, but also with our bird shorts, which is a relatively new program that we have where essentially our ambassador birds get to come out and do a demonstration prior to the shows that we have in our Pacific Visions, and they are so cool, and I get to watch her develop them from sort of the ground up, picking the music and picking the backgrounds that we want. And she's trained the birds also to participate along with our aviculture team, and our birds are doing some really cool stuff.
They're so cool.
We have a hawk flying around in our theater.
Come on down.
There's a hawk.
There's a hawk here.
There's a hawk inside.
You might see a different program animal.
We have a red-footed booby. No one has a red-footed booby. Very few institutions have red-footed boobies. They're pretty underrepresented species. I'm clearly very excited about birds.
I know.
We have a lot of different cool animals that are all participating in these bird shorts, and it's just cool to see animals getting out and sort of fulfilling a mission and, being a part of the outreach that we do with our guests while they are still living this incredibly fulfilled and happy life. And part of that for these animals is going out and stretching their wings.
Yeah.
It is very enriching for them. And I can tell Lola enjoys the field trips, even if he did not enjoy today's interview because it was a very strange...
I think he was mostly mad that it wasn't just him being interviewed. He likes his...
Heather's
so why
here.
is she here? Why is she get a mic and I don't? I don't really understand.
I think we would be remiss if we gave a bird a microphone, just peck, 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 and then the screaming in it.
That's, I think, what the people want.
That's true.
I think that's what our audience wants.
We'll have that content.
We'll just have to record an episode just hosted by Lola. It's just him
us asking
shrieking
questions
into the microphone.
If you guys want that, please let
Comment.
us know. We'll do it.
We'll do.
I'm not above it. I'm not above an entire episode where we ask questions and animals answer. That is fun.
Oh, we should interview Parker.
He's got a lot to say.
He does.
He'll sneeze on the microphone.
Perfect.
Anyway.
So will I.
You already did, actually.
I have allergies.
So Heather and Lola have been wonderful guests. I am very excited to talk a little bit more about sort of what it means to be an ambassador bird and sort of what training goes into that, because it is also very different than some other types of training that we do. And yeah, we're going to get to learn about a really, really cool animal today. And Lola, I'm just kidding.
Shout out to Heather. It's a really fun episode. Let's get into it. All right, everybody, welcome back. We are here today with Heather Penns, who is a aviculturist here at the Aquarium of the Pacific. Is that your correct job title right now, Heather?
Yeah, that is correct.
Queen
Hello.
of Birds.
I think that's actually Heather's
Yeah, I
job
think
title.
that was
It's
actually
Queen of
that.
Birds.
I felt uncomfortable saying aviculturist because I feel like, Queen of Birds just suits you so much better.
I'll take it.
So what is aviculture?
It is the someone who studies and cares for birds.
That makes a lot of sense as to why you work with so many of our bird species there.
But I know you work with other animals besides birds. We're going to get into that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It doesn't encompass everything, I guess.
It's
I guess
true.
that's kind of how it is at the aquarium. Your job
That's
title doesn't necessarily encompass all the animals you work with.
I think that's what we've learned over the course of our podcast
Yeah.
too, is people are like, oh, I work with the octopus, but I also feed the sea lions.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay,
Okay.
cool.
It
Go
always
off, queen.
works
Like,
out
you-
that way.
So
amazing. How long have you been at the aquarium?
This is going into my 5th year.
nice. Wow,
cool.
really?
Yeah, I started off as a volunteer for about a year and a half, and then I was hired. I just got my little anniversary email.
Oh, yay!
Yeah.
Happy anniversary!
That's awesome.
That's incredible. What about life before the aquarium? What's your background in animals?
I went to school at America's Teaching Zoo, which is a school up north. It's just a 2-year program, and you graduate with a certificate working animals, talking about animals, pre-veterinary courses, care, restraint, handling, all that stuff. And so I actually had a job at an aviary in Salt Lake City the day I graduated. So I had a
That's
U-Haul
awesome.
packed up and ready to go pretty fast.
Was it lined up for you, like partially through your school? Did you meet the people through
Yeah,
school?
they did the interviews at the school. It was the
Nice.
only place that came, probably because my boss at that facility was a previous student. So,
That makes sense.
Connections, networking, very important.
yeah.
I think everyone's had such a different background on this, like in terms of where they came from. Like I'm pretty sure Jeff is a marketing background. Everyone has like something different. And so it's funny to hear really the full spectrum of like, I went to a teaching zoo and I learned how to do this properly from like a school. And then me who was like, yeah, one day someone asked if I liked frogs and I said, yeah, sort of. And then now that's my thing. So it's kind of cool to see the full spectrum of animal backgrounds and stuff
I
for
know.
people.
I love it. It is really cool to see. Awesome. Well, okay. What is your, I guess, like day-to-day like at the aquarium?
It's pretty full, actually. So, as an
Yes.
aviculturist, I come in and I take care of the birds. And I currently am managing the large aviary, the lorikeet aviary. And then I also care for the animal ambassadors along with a great team of people.
Awesome.
But what's nice is it doesn't just stop there. I also get to help with sea lion feeds and a bunch of other things. And I also get to do presentations with those animal ambassadors.
Very cool.
Yeah, it's been fun to sort of utilize people's background and experience. And you have experience working with sea lions before, right? And so-
Right. I actually went to that school to work with marine mammals.
Really?
But I grew up, my mom was affiliated with an animal rehab, wildlife rehab, and we always had birds growing up. So I grew up raising sparrows and doves and crows. So I went to that school to be a marine mammal trainer, but then
The birds got you
the
back.
birds right? Every facility has birds,
That's
even
true.
an aquarium.
I know. That's one of our questions later on. It's like, why does an aquarium have birds? And to that, I say, why not?
It's true.
Why not?
Everything's connected.
I love it. Well, tell us a little bit about the ambassador program. What is the ambassador program? What are ambassador birds?
I am very excited about our program is up and coming. So we've always had an animal ambassador program. And recently there's been more of a focus on us and we've been asked to do more. And so we're slowly gaining some traction and we're going to add some more animals to our collection, which we're always careful about to make sure we're going about the best procedures to do so. And we're in the process of making new programs for our guests here at the Aquarium of the Pacific.
That's awesome.
What are some things you might consider when you're looking at potentially a new animal ambassador? Like some of ours are probably not what you think. Like, I think people think of a very charismatic parrot as an animal ambassador, which we certainly do have, but I think some of our ambassador animals would surprise people as well.
Yeah.
That's a really good question because not every animal is going to be suited to be an animal ambassador, and we have to make sure that we're picking the right animal for this position. I'm really glad you mentioned that. So that's why we're being so careful about our choices. And again, we are working with animals that are non-releasable, meaning they were wild, they were hatched wild birds, and then something happened, usually because of people, and they were injured, and those injuries were permanent enough where they could not be re-released. And so we are offering them a home. So I have to make sure that we are choosing animals that will be able to be conditioned successfully. So this is something that's enriching and positive for their lives.
Absolutely. That's amazing.
We want to make sure that they have good welfare, and I think it's a really important consideration. Mike, in his episode last season, mentioned his absolute favorite animal is actually an animal that just recently went through that whole process and is our most recent program animal acquisition, Lyra.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about Lyra.
Lyra, I love her so. So we recently, well, it feels recently, acquired a red-tailed hawk. And in falconry terms, it's referred to as a passage hawk, meaning it's its first year. She's in her first year of being hatched. And so she had
She's
some
young.
pretty
I didn't
serious
realize.
injuries, yes, and was taken to a rehab. And not all of those injuries healed as we would hope to be re-released into the wild. So I had heard that there was a red-tailed hawk that had was capable of flight but was considered non-releasable. And when I heard about her age, I knew that would be the right parameters that would make this a successful animal ambassador. So we added a red-tailed hawk to our program, and she's been this consistent, beautiful flyer, and she currently flies over our guests in our Pacific Visions Theater.
It's so cool. It's so cool. She also has a bedazzled float, I guess is a good name for it.
She has a float.
It's very fabulous.
Makes it sound like she's in a parade every day.
I mean,
basically.
it is a parade all from the barn to the theater.
It's true.
I know. I see people looking, and I stop in my tracks like, who's there?
I know. I
Oh
love
my
it.
gosh, it's Lyra.
So what we're talking about is she has a cover that covers her crate to keep her calm as we wheel through the guests. And we happened to order a velvet cover for this crate, which is really cute. And
We just so happened to get
Crushed velvet.
yes, so one of our volunteers bedazzled it with her name,
It's really
and
cute.
It's
so
gorgeous.
sparkly.
You might see it walking around the
The star
aquarium.
of the
You might get lucky
Absolutely.
to see the star being transported.
Before she goes to her dressing room to get ready for the show.
That's
That's so cool. Like I kind of not to be a downer, but I do kind of want to hear about the number of reasons why the animals are in this position to begin with, because they are ambassador animals. They are going to inspire the public to care about the animals and to take better precautions just in the world. So, what are some of the reasons that the animals have ended up in in care and then adopted by us?
Good question. So, for instance, we were just talking about Lyra. Lyra, more than likely, based on her injuries, was hit by a car. She sustained a lot of damage to her hip. Her hip was broken. Her feet were damaged. So that is one example. And that was just from people throwing stuff out of a car window and then rodents feeding on those things and a hawk trying to do their job.
The full circle there.
And it happens quite often, a lot of times with owls. For instance, we have Lola, and Lola is a sulfur-crested cockatoo, and he is considered a rescue because he was an unwanted pet. At the age of 2.5, his owners decided he was too much to handle. They're not domesticated animals, and they were looking to have someone else take him. He wasn't their forever animal, and so he is considered a rescue, and he has been here for 17 years now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I think that speaks to a really salient point that a lot of people adopt birds or get birds thinking that they are, an easy pet to manage. And I feel like every single bird has such an individualistic personality and different traits. And to be honest, they can be quite loud and messy and stubborn and, all of these things that indicate that they are super intelligent. And so what is it like working with the cast of characters that are all of the different birds that we have here?
Well, I think our curator has learned not to hold a meeting in front of Lola.
And what happens when he holds a meeting in front of
It
Lola?
is a deafening scream that continues on and on and on.
It's actually really funny.
It is. It is. So yeah, that is one example.
The disrespect.
He's just engaging with his audience.
You know, the thing about animals is they listen to us talk all day long. I feel like that's with my dogs, you know, like they listen to us talk all day long and then they have something to say sometimes and we can't ask them to be quiet.
That's true.
They have stuff to say.
Sometimes. When we acquired Lyra, she certainly was a wild animal, and so sort of what went into conditioning a hawk to be comfortable flying over a theater with potentially hundreds of people in it from being a wild hawk. That's a very stark difference, you know.
Well, it's a lot of training and conditioning and using positive reinforcement. So the best way for a raptor, which is a bird of prey, is to speak to their heart. And you speak to their heart through their stomach. They are very, unlike parrots, they've taken emotion out of the equation. They're very kind of black and white. You feed me, and it's positive, you're positive. And so by utilizing food and gaining that trust with her, I took very small approximations. And then when she realized that none of us are going to do anything negative to her, and that her opportunity to get a lot of reinforcement, which is all sorts of things that are yummy just to her.
Hey, speak for yourself.
Right.
I love a raw quail.
Right? Who doesn't love a raw quail? She was very quickly, through trust and training, flying over people. She's was consistent and has been consistent except for just one time.
It happens. And that was just stage fright, honestly. Every star gets stage fright once in a while.
Exactly.
You know what? She might not have done it that one time in front of all those people, but that is the most talked about performance.
Of course.
Right?
What
Of anything.
happened?
She flies. So our audience have a mental picture. She flies from the back of the theater behind everybody down over the audience to the speaker on stage. And we're wearing a raptor glove, which is a leather glove that protects us from her talons. And she lands in the glove and eats her favorite things, which could be mice or quail or chick. And so during training, and my co-trainer Susan and I had been working this behavior for a while, pretty much right out of quarantine. She had been consistent, flying down, no brainer, very easy, until we had 300 people in the audience. And I thought it was the group because she had never seen a group so big. But what it turned out to be was the lighting. The lighting had been changed last minute. And so we released her and she sat up on her box and I could see her looking real hard. They have this amazing vision, right? But she's in the dark, they don't fly. They won't do it. And so she sat up there for the longest time. And
you're like, yeah, so.
oh my gosh.
Stalling.
There's the most stalling.
Yeah.
Sometimes it happens with our animals during we do live streams, like the octopus. You can't make an octopus do anything they don't want to do. You can't make a hawk do anything that they don't want to do.
Exactly.
So you just have to get pretty good about kind of filling that time. And, you know, eventually sometimes they come around and then at some times you're like, all right, we're going to wrap it up with that.
Yeah.
They don't want to participate today. And we can't tell them to.
Yeah, and it's a good learning experience for us and like what we might change. Like, do we do a slightly more lighting in the theater now? Yeah. They're really good.
Now I can tell the difference. I guess I was just so with the huge crowd and on stage it seemed different, but I didn't.
She's
Maybe
like, this
all
is
of
not
it.
my lighting.
Yeah.
I'm not going to perform in this light.
She's like, I need a dim glow.
There's a pop star who brings their own lighting around with them.
That's her.
And that's, you know, Lyra is a pop
She
star.
shows up with a ring light every time.
It was her angle.
Yeah. How dare we? How dare we ask?
I would love to know the differences between raptors that you work with and our parrots that you work with. Personality-wise,
Viciousness. I'm just
You know, there's a lot of differences. I like switching gears for both. I just love all the birds. So, you know, birds of prey to me are much easier to read. They're going to show you right off the bat if they're uncomfortable. They're going to show you if there's something off. You can read it, you can tell, and you can make your choices from there behaviorally to set them up for the best success. Parrots are different because there's more. A social animal has more emotion at play, and sometimes they mask their feelings. And so when they're stoic and they sit there like that, you don't know if they're just taking everything in and enjoying it and it's enriching, or
there's something
there's
underneath.
angst going on and you're going to find out later. So they're definitely a little bit more complicated.
Wow.
You definitely need to know your animal in all the different situations, and always try to set it up where they are going to come out of that experience knowing that it's going to be okay and it's going to be positive for the next time.
Are birds of prey typically pretty solitary animals, whereas parrots live in like huge congregations?
Yes, they are solitary until about a mating season. Once they get a mate, they'll stay in a mated pair, but they don't hang out in big groups. In fact, they're territorial.
Do they stay with, I mean, I guess it would probably be species dependent, but do some species like stay with their mate all the time? like even out of breeding season?
frequently.
That's really cute.
It
I
is.
didn't know
Let's
that.
kill stuff together.
Right?
Honestly,
There is-
Forever.
honestly, kind of a vibe. Ooh, I learned a really cool term. That's you said in falconry terms, and I just love the phrase because like when do you ever get to say in falconry terms?
Yeah.
But I learned a really cool phrase the other week that the phrase "fed up" comes from falconry, and it generally is like your animal is now full and is like,
It's
I'm not
fed up.
really, yeah, I don't really want to like do this stuff anymore.
He's
you
not
know,
fed up as in he's done with
yeah,
you.
he's just like I'm full.
He's
You know?
I'm
satiated.
fed.
Exactly. And it's just come to mean
upscale.
like so like frustrated with something, but really it just means that your bird was full at one point.
so
and
I'm
you-
funny.
so used to
I'm gonna
saying
start saying
fed
that.
up that I haven't even considered that.
like what it
right. I am fed up with you. No, I'm just
I've eaten a lot today and I can't do much else. Like that's actually how
Been
I'm
there.
fed up most days.
Been there.
So-
For sure.
falconry has seasons, so you would fly your hawk for a season, hunt with your hawk. It's a working relationship. It's a partnership. It's really a very different than what we do here, but it's just really amazing and peaceful and really bonding with that animal. And you spend all your time with your
Yeah.
raptor. I mean, they're riding with you sometimes in the front seat on a perch.
That's really
You
cool.
know, sometimes they're by your bedside. And then you go hunting with your raptor. So when you say they're fed up, and it started by saying they're fed up for the season, so you give them a huge whatever they caught, a duck, whatever they
Yeah.
caught. That's their feast, and
Yeah.
they're fed
Enjoy.
up for
That's really funny.
up.
So yeah, I learned that the term "fed up" came from in falconry terms, which it's just such a cool thing to like. I don't know. I've just always wanted to say in falconry terms.
I
So.
would love to learn more about kind of the safety precautions you have to take with an animal like that. You mentioned the glove. Are you keeping a certain distance? What's kind of I'm sure it's just a constant kind of checking in with the animal,
With,
and you're
like,
watching.
Lyra?
Yeah, with an animal like Lyra, who has the capability of potentially.
She's intense too.
She is intense. I love her so much. With this training, there's a very close bond and trust. So they need to be pretty close to you. And I have to be able to trust that she's not going to use her natural weapons against me for any reason. So there is a closeness when you're working with a raptor, and it is a relationship, it is a trust, and you need that for your success for that animal.
Back and forth.
Yeah.
So the glove kind of acts more of protection for your arm, I'm assuming. It's not necessarily a precaution if something were to happen, but more of like
She's sharp
she's got
feet.
sharp feet.
Correct. She's got those murder toes.
Yeah.
And she's not landing on you with any sort of aggression. She's landing because you've asked her to.
Yeah.
And that's just how they're
That's just
designed.
how it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's so funny. That's so cool.
The longest
how often
toenails.
how often do those gloves have to be replaced? Or do they get worn pretty quickly?
They do get worn, but mostly it's not from the raptors. Mostly it's from just being
They toss
Yeah.
around. Yeah.
exactly.
happens.
It's from the humans.
right.
The raptors do barely anything too.
Yeah, they like
Right?
just a little scratch.
Yeah, but, well, also there's like little pieces of mice on it and stuff. once in a while. You know, I get it.
tasty.
I remember very early on when you had started working with Lyra, you were like, do you want to help me with an approximation? And that was just sort of like one little baby step to getting her to fly from one person to the next. And I had never seen a bird of prey up close. Like, I grew up in Hawaii. There's nothing, like, I never even thought about it. And was like, cool, little hawk, sure. This bird is huge. The bird is like the biggest thing I've ever seen in my life. And I'm not afraid of animals, but I had a little fear in my heart that day because she just comes flying in so hot. And she landed on my arm, but I think my arm was positioned low or I dropped it. And she started walking up my shoulder. And there's this picture that Heather took of me, which is so funny because I look like I'm smiling, but my eyes are so wide and fearful because she's looking right in my eyeballs
You're
with her
unaware.
like... And I was like, ah! And there was nothing about her that meant ill. Like she was
No, it's just
training.
intense.
She's learning. But yeah, she has like the most intense, like she'll stare right in your eyes. And I was like, okay, you can have her back.
I feel like that happens with a lot of our animals. Like I take
true.
people to a sea lion encounter.
It's true.
And from outside of the exhibit, oh, they're so cute. Once you get up to those
Yeah.
guys, Parker's 600, 800 pounds sometimes.
Yeah.
You forget, like,
You're like, okay.
oh, that's a big guy. That's big. That's standing right next to me. He's got
Yeah.
those teeth. Okay. And then and then you're like, oh, he's so cute.
He's actually a big,
exactly.
worm at the end of the day. He's the
That
cutest.
animal is an amazing animal. I didn't, you don't realize, like you said, you don't realize how big he is until I had my 12-year-old do an encounter.
Right
when we
next
were
to
doing
him.
encounters, and like, oh, he's huge.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're like, oh yeah, I guess he is kind of big. You forget.
And he's just like the gentlest guy too. Like we're so lucky with the animals that we have. And a lot of it is good training, and certainly that goes into them being comfortable. And an animal's not going to aggress on you if they're comfortable in their situation. And so it's amazing to see these animals come from situations where they're rescued wild animals and over time become so conditioned and understanding of the interaction that we're having with them that they're really calm. Something that may or may not be relevant to the remainder of this podcast is we actually are working on conditioning one of our animal ambassadors right now. Isn't that right?
That is true.
There's a Lola right in front of me.
He's a little guy.
And he is very anti-podcast.
Yeah,
I
what are
think.
you
He's
seeing?
not-
And how are we working through this? You just fed him, so.
I did. This is actually the first time he's been open to taking some food through his crate door. So he's never been in this room before. There's microphones at the green room. It's so
There's like
different
100 people.
visually for him. And you know, he's been all over this aquarium. He's been here he's been here longer than I have, and he's been everywhere.
Except this room.
Apparently, except for this room,
This is new.
It's a lot. And
because it's the most quiet I've ever seen him.
he's like, it's quiet in here. I have to be quiet too. No, this room is really funny because there's no ambient noise.
Yeah.
We're
And
in
for
kind of like a
bird,
cave.
That must be a lot, right? Just a lack of sound.
Yeah,
It's like,
it's like something's up.
So he's just watching us.
So we'll see if
Talk
Lola
about
makes.
him.
Yeah, Lola
his little,
makes an
like,
appearance.
right around his mouth, all of his feathers are puffed up. What does that mean? Like, you are his body language expert. Like, I know that's what you're doing when you're doing these things. What is he telling us right now?
He's sitting tight.
He's like, hold on.
When his feathers are pulled back like that, there's an action that's about to happen. When he's sitting there and he's got his chin feathers all up there, he does not plan to move from there right now.
We get it, Lola.
It's cool that you can look at an animal and sort of be like, this is, you know, vaguely how they're feeling and what, you know, we're looking for. And so, I don't know, it's been fun to just kind of watch you choose the moments of like, hey, I'm going to offer you a snack. Do you feel good about this? Do you want to take it? And he's doing his best.
He's doing his best. My favorite thing is sitting in our admin offices and hearing Lola come by. It makes my entire day. And then sometimes he'll talk to me, and it's the best day ever.
It's so funny because I didn't expect this behavior from him at all. When we take him to the Honda Pacific Visions Theater back in, which is a big journey from
Yeah,
where the
it's
bird
long.
barn
It's
is.
a long trip.
He's just flirting with everybody
Yeah. Yep,
through
the
the
whole
crate
time.
the entire time, and we have just as much of a production to and from the program.
Yeah.
And we're just in a very chill, quiet
Yeah.
room, and he's like,
Right.
something's
And now
up
he's
here.
not doing
Something's
anything.
going on.
Something's up
I'm
here.
pretty sure I've like been walking and heard a wolf whistle and been so
Oh, yeah.
offended. I'm like, oh, it's Lola. Lola's just like, hey,
Yeah.
how you doing out there? I'm like, oh, it's just Lola.
You wolf whistled at him as we were walking here. So
Yeah,
Aw,
I get it.
He's the best. He's so cool. We'll see if he doesn't make an appearance today, we'll do a post interview with him.
Yeah.
He's so cool.
It's cool to see each animal have their own personality, and certainly some of it is species dependent. But I mean, even our lorikeets, right? Like each of them has a very distinctive. You wouldn't imagine like 100 birds in the aviary.
Oh my goodness.
And they're all different
right,
somehow.
it's a very strong hierarchy of personalities.
Can you tell the difference between them based on the way they look, personalities?
Not like some people can. I'm doing my best. There's a lot of birds in there. We actually have the second largest aviary. I think it's the first in the States, but the
Oh,
second
wow.
of all interactive aviaries, lorikeet aviaries. So there's a lot of birds in there, and they all have different numbers and a number on that band, but I can only tell a small percentage
Yeah,
apart based on their behavior and
Yeah.
how they treat. Yeah.
Oh, that's you. Mhm. I know
Do
you.
you have a favorite?
Yes.
Who is it?
Rancor.
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 Why
Yes.
Rancor?
Stage
Tell us
5
more.
clinger.
He
He causes
obsessed
trouble.
with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I love
I
that.
like his personality. There's so many that I love, but
He's
when I
the
go
top
into
of
the
the
aviary,
list.
he's the boy I look for.
I
love that.
That's cute.
Would you mind quickly listing all of our ambassador birds, and then maybe we can get into a little bit about the other ambassador animals?
Yeah, so the ambassador birds that I'm working with now is Lola, the sulfur-crested cockatoo, who's quietly sitting here. And we have Lyra, our red-tailed hawk. We also have Sula, our red-footed booby.
She's
which
cool.
Is, yeah,
It's really cool.
I never got to work with a booby until I came here. It's just amazing.
But Sula is, I think, the only red-footed booby that I know of that's under human care, and she is one of the coolest birds I've ever met. Like,
Definitely.
she's got her own personality too. I remember when she first came to us, she had a stick that she was obsessed with.
Yeah, we think she was younger at the time. You know, we just had to kind of guess at their ages. And her behavior kind of indicated to us that this was a younger bird who did a lot of playing. And so she would play with a favorite stick on a string. And so we would bring one of those things as a way to engage with her and reinforce her in different locations. And it was just really fun to watch.
It's been cool to see her kind of grow up here too. And
Yeah,
So
yeah.
cool. Okay, so we have Lola, Lyra,
Oh, I got
Sula.
sidetracked.
No, I did too.
That's our job. Don't worry.
And then we have a small group of reptiles. So we have several snakes, 2 king snakes and 2 boas, and we now have 3 prehensile-tailed skinks.
Now we have 3.
Yeah.
And now we have
so
3. We have a
exciting.
baby.
It's a really cute baby,
It
too.
is. And Benny. My goodness, Benny the blue-throated macaw.
Benny is a beautiful bird.
He is so cool. That's
his
another one.
personality is so.
I love when he comes by my desk. Doesn't really communicate, especially the way Lola does.
No.
Right?
Does Benny talk? Because I definitely thought I heard Benny saying hi the other day, but
He
then
says hi and bye.
As soon as I looked, he was like, I will not say a word.
And then the
That wasn't me.
cutest part, the cutest thing is Lola taught Benny how to do the monster behavior. So if you put your hand up like a claw and you say monster, he puts his foot up and goes, "Arr! Monster. Good."
He's so animated with it. It's so funny.
Let's do it again. Monster. Good.
That was wonderful, Benny. Thank you.
And Lola taught him that.
Oh my
That's
gosh.
a very good job, Lola.
Right?
Good job,
Lola's like,
buddy.
listen,
He's like, please, I'm the best trainer
please.
here.
Honestly, I mean, it's cool to know that birds can learn by mimicking other birds, even
Yeah.
other
Right.
species.
That's fascinating.
And I mean, they're roommates. I mean, not in the same enclosure, but like certainly they can see each other, right? So
What's funny is Lola knows all of his cues, his SDs. And so if sometimes he'll say to himself, target,
Aw.
or step up.
He's like, I'm
I'd
doing
love
it.
to learn more a little about that communication with the birds. How is an animal able to talk? How is it able to mimic what we sound like?
Yeah, and how much understanding of what they're saying do you think that they
Yeah.
have?
What's crazy is it's not clear to people exactly how they're able to do that. They don't have vocal cords. And what's also fascinating, it was speculated by some a while ago that why would they need to be able to have
Yeah.
that mimicking, which not all of them do. Some of them are great mimickers. Like some people can sing really well and some people like me cannot. And so it was speculated that maybe the best mimickers can mimic a predator to avoid another predator coming, but there's been no documentation and lots of studies, and no one's ever seen or heard a parrot doing that, utilizing their ability to mimic other animals. But there is study of these birds having their own family sounds of recognition with each other in large flocks. So even though they'll have family groups, they can be found in huge groups of several hundred birds.
So cool.
Yeah.
I always wonder why that was something they had, and it goes back to their evolution, right? Something they picked up. And
Do they name each other? Like you said, that would be Lola. What
Lola,
is your
speak on
actual
that.
name?
Oh, I need to look that up.
Isn't that weird? That would be interesting to know whether or not they like have individual names. Like I know
Right.
some species, I think dolphins, they have
Yeah, I
like
thought
whistle
so.
signatures that are like that's for you. And so I wonder if parrots have the same.
that's so cool.
Lola, let us know. Oh, he actually looked. Oh my gosh, I'm so nervous. He's looking at me.
Nobody's asked me
No.
that before.
He's like,
like,
my name is
"And
actually
thank
just constant screaming the whole time.
He's been saying it.
That's
Every time Brett talks, that's what he's yelling. My name is.
it's a beautiful name.
He wants his name and he wants a raise.
He's like, I should go full time out here, you guys. Oh, buddy, I didn't know. Well, now we'll call you by that only. Can you imagine? This is our ambassador, self-requested cockatoo.
And scream.
I think he'd have a really good time
Our
with it.
whole AV team is like, please.
Please stop.
Please don't.
I'm sorry, Scott, in advance for you listening to this.
Well, can we talk a little bit about a little more about the positive reinforcement? So you're giving him some pellets or some snacks right now.
Yes. So we train using positive reinforcement. And just a quick, easy way to explain it is we just reward behavior we like, we ignore behavior we don't like. So any of our animal ambassadors, including the reptiles, we do, and some of you that come to the aquarium on a regular basis are familiar with this, the 2-finger touch. So
Yeah.
if I go to one of our snakes and I touch them gently on the back and there's a reaction, that's their only way to tell me that they don't want to do it. Which I don't normally get that from our snakes, but they have that option if they
Yeah.
wanted to. And it's the same thing with Lola and Lyra too, and Benny. So if we have a station in their enclosure and we ask them to go to that station, which is a specific location in their enclosure, and that's a highly reinforceable station or location. If they go to that station right off the bat, that's his way of telling me, I
I'm
can't
ready.
wait to come out and see what you have for me. And if they don't, that's his only way to say, I'm not feeling it today. So if he doesn't, we respect that, and we talk about it. And if it happens more than once, then there's something. It's an indication that something's not positive for him, because the whole goal is that he wants to come out and be enriched and do things and see new things and new stimuli.
One of my favorite things about training is that, people always are like, oh, well, you make them do something. And I'm like, no, the whole thing is a conversation. Like the animal is expressing to me either, hey, that's something that maybe makes me nervous. And you're expressing, I'll work through it with you. And I think that can be lost when you're just looking at it externally, but the minute that you're in it, and it's the same as if you're training your dog, you know what their boundaries are, and like, I'm not going to do that, and when they're uncomfortable. And every single species has some ability to communicate, but also training is a way for us to give them the tools to tell us when they do or don't want to. And I think you probably more than most individuals at the aquarium, because you work with so many ambassador animals that come out and meet people and have to do things that might be overwhelming or scary for an animal, have to work on these relationships and communication styles and understand them so much better. Like, I could tell you a frog's probably uncomfortable, but like, when is a frog comfortable? Like they just constantly have these huge eyes. But like, for all the different species of birds, you have to be able to read a situation and like get an animal to participate or accept that they won't and be like, hey, that's okay. That's something we can work on another time. And I think that's a really cool aspect of our jobs, and especially your job, that I don't think we look at enough of. Like, you're talking to these animals in your own way all day, every day. And it's pretty cool to see.
That's one of the reasons why I stuck with working with birds and training with birds, because the biggest reward is free-flying birds. And for instance, take raptors or birds of prey. They can reinforce themselves. Lyra's perfectly capable of hunting on her own. But the fact that through positive reinforcement and through our relationship, she will choose to come to me and do that instead. And we can do these performances, in other places that I worked at, it's completely outdoors, and all these animals are making their choices. It's
cool.
It's cool.
Super relationship based too. And like, it's cool to know that they know who you are. Like, Parker, no offense again, but I don't think Parker has any idea who I am. He sees a person who shows up and feeds him
Blue
sometimes.
shirt. All right.
Yeah, and he's like, a bucket of fish. I'm here for it. Let's do it. But these birds, like, you and another person who's brand new could ask the exact same thing of a bird, and they will give totally different responses. Because, like, I don't know you. Who are you?
Absolutely.
That's pretty
I don't
cool.
like the way you asked me that.
Yeah. I will never do that for you, ever.
Is that how Heather told you to do it?
Is there like a pretty big learning curve to, working with some of the, maybe less so for some species, like a snake that maybe is like, I'm pretty chill hanging out. However, but like for the birds especially, is there a pretty big learning curve to starting to work with them?
It is, and it's different for every person. It's a different journey for sure. And for instance, Gary, my co-trainer, has to work extra hard at being currently the only guy on the team. So when you have a bunch of girls working the same animals and we deliver our cues and our verbal...
In like a high-pitched girl voice, which I always do. Good job!
Gary's always done really good, and so he has to really keep up on relationships, as we all do, of course, but him even more so, to make sure that he's working and being able to take care of these animals equally as we can.
They get
That's so cool. It's something I would never consider before. That's amazing.
Like, a man?
Yeah.
What? I think, it just goes to show, like, how individualistic they all are. Given how intelligent they are and how individual they are there differences in, like, the types of enrichment that you offer them? Or what types of enrichment might you give a parrot versus a hawk? And, like, how do you keep them entertained?
Parrots... you can overwhelm them for sure, but they are fun to give enrichment to. You can give them browse and bright shiny toys, and they love to shred things, and that's what floats their boat. You have to be careful. Some things can be overwhelming to them, and they can be a little fearful. So you have to sometimes you have to take approximations and have that toy outside their enclosure and work your way closer and closer. Like, one day you will love this. And we're not going to rush it.
No, exactly. It's just going to be 10 feet away, and then tomorrow 9 feet, and just going to make its way a little closer. Yeah, this is safe.
We have in the past given a Christmas tree to our raptor. Now, Lyra's too big for a Christmas tree.
She'll take down a Christmas tree, no problem.
True.
It's over.
What
She
I
hates
have
Christmas.
done That's funny. What I have done is taken a shoebox. I got new work shoes, and I poked holes in it, and I put a quail inside.
Oh.
And I had to show it to her.
Yeah.
And then I threw it on the floor, and I watched her. Anytime any bird that peeks has to turn its head sideways to peek
It's
is the
cute.
cutest thing to me, still to this day. So she flew down, and with that stern raptor look, because they have that
Yeah.
natural sun visor, it makes them look really like they have no sense of humor.
Intense, yeah.
She got really low and she peeked really hard
one
into the
eye
box,
peek.
and it was the cute. I wish I had filmed it.
Oh my gosh, we have to film that this year. We have to put a camera inside the box too. To see her eye. Yeah, we
A
have to film
GoPro.
that. Yeah.
She could have mine. Honestly, even if she,
She could have
destroys
it.
it,
Exactly,
it's
yeah,
worth
it's
it.
worth
That
it.
would be really fun. I just love the idea of just like the
Seeing
one
the
eye.
eye.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
That would need to be a GIF or a GIF. I would want to see that.
Yes.
I would
Yeah.
use that all the time.
Just a hawk getting really close to the camera, just
Right.
peeking with the one eye. I love that.
I love it.
Cool.
That's amazing. So that would be probably considered like a hunting enrichment for her. Is there any other hunting enrichments that you give to a raptor or raptors here?
Hunting enrichment. We've done enriching actions and sessions where I can take her somewhere else in the room and I can just toss something up and have her invert and catch it and land, and that's
Cool.
just
That's
really
cool.
stimulating and fun
Yeah.
for her. From what I
Yes.
understand from those who worked at the Ojai Raptor Center, she was a very assertive hunter in her flight aviary when they were trying to prep her for release. And so I've been using that quality in her to be able to stimulate and give her enrichment outside of her enclosure. So we can do flights back and forth. I've even, and this might be for me too, I like watching birds of prey run on the ground because it's really
It's
absurd.
it's kind of cute though because you're like
Right?
their
And
little
so
legs.
if you just
You
like
don't have
roll,
wings, dude.
roll her food across, and she just trucks.
Can we do a slow mo of Lyra
Right.
running
We need
like
that,
face
too.
on
Exactly.
little wings?
love
would be
that.
really
Plus,
cute.
it looks like they're wearing trousers, and so you just get to see their feathers on their legs, and I love it.
Yeah, why do they have such feathers all the way down? It's like some birds, their feathers end at sort of like where their trunk, their body ends.
Like vultures.
Yeah, why do raptors have feathers all the way down? They look like pants.
Vultures have.
Don't ask
It
why
is like
something has
pants. Like eagles, we call them trousers. Oh, I see your trousers. It's just they're feathered all the way down for their protection. It also helps protect them from their prey. So
Got
even a
it.
squirrel can run and bite, kind of thing. And it's also warmth. Vultures, on the other hand, have naked legs and a naked head because they
Naked.
eat dead things, and they'll actually
Oh, gross.
stand in a carcass, and it helps
Got it.
keep them clean. It helps keep their feathers clean by not having feathers in those locations.
And also things aren't fighting back, I guess, at that point.
Yeah,
So
right,
like
right.
no protection needed.
Which is a good point. A lot of times, raptors will eat carrion just like a vulture can, which is one of those things why you don't want them around roads.
Yeah. Don't throw your food out your windows. Don't throw anything out your windows.
Yeah, absolutely.
But there is that like argument like, oh, I'm throwing something biodegradable back
Right.
into, nature, but that is just creating a food source for other animals where they shouldn't be close to a
Absolutely.
freeway.
We absolutely talk about that in our bird shorts in Pacific Visions. Throwing an apple core out of a car window might seem like a harmless act. It's biodegradable, but it feeds a rodent, which attracts a raptor,
Yeah.
and that's where it goes
Vicious
from there.
circle, yeah.
That sort of leads to the first question we have from social media of like, why do we have birds at an aquarium? And I think you touched on it. The messaging is there. Everything's interconnected. But what's your rationale for why we have birds here?
I like them.
Because I love birds.
Because I love
Right.
birds. Why wouldn't we have birds?
I don't want to work here unless there's birds here.
I get it.
There's so much connection with birds that most people do not realize. In my career working with birds, a lot of people don't have that connection that they do with mammals, and I love being able to change that and showing them how important and cool birds really are. But their connection is amazing, and each species and each animal group or each bird group has these important connections to our oceans and to our ecosystems. Like, we talk about the red-footed booby and how what they're doing is their waste products give nutrients. They're like gardeners to coral reef ecosystems. And how we came about finding that out. Lola here, the sulfur-crested cockatoo is not an endangered species. There are cockatoos that are critically endangered. However, parrots, like the cockatoo, are highlighted as frequent long-distance seed dispersers, and that's really important to the survival of our plant species. These guys, there's been studies of how long these birds will fly with branches and fruits
Yeah.
in their feet and in their beaks. Because we're
Lola-
gluttons.
Yeah.
He's like, don't make fun of me.
I'm sorry,
You
Lola.
never know what stick
like,
is
I'm-
important.
I'm never talking now.
I have walked up to Lola's enclosure before and just seen him with a stick in his hand, and it is the most threatening thing you've ever seen in your life.
Don't
He's
you
like,
dare
one
take
foot on the
this.
perch and then just a stick being held out at you, and you're like, oh,
I have fun.
he got offended.
Oh, you got a foot up. We're getting comfy.
He's like, where's the
He
stick?
put it down. He's like, don't
Where's
look at
the
me.
stick?
What stick?
Give it to me
What
now.
stick did you see?
I'll
Give
show
it
you.
back. Oh,
But-
he's so cool.
It's been pretty cool to see. I think something someone told me once, maybe you can fact check me on this. Someone told me that birds like parrots can't taste like capsaicin, or it doesn't give them the same reaction like that spicy food does to us. And so for that reason, peppers develop capsaicin very specifically so that birds could eat them and disperse the seeds and poop them out, but wouldn't be averse to it. And I was like, but mammals wouldn't
fascinating.
because they would
That is-
digest it. And I was like, that's crazy.
Yeah. that-
We could give him a jalapeno right now. We could see how he does with it. And
do you think,
yeah,
Lola?
someone told me they can't like experience spice in that way.
That makes sense. They don't. In writing, it says they don't have a sense of smell. However, a lot of us that have been working with these birds notice that if you can hold up a piece of food and they'll be willing to take it visually, like, oh, I want to try that, and it'll get so close to their mouth, and at the last second they'll pull back and shake their head. So there's something going on
There's
there.
some sense.
Right,
yeah.
there's something there. So I don't think across the board it's blanket no sense of smell. There's something going on.
Yeah, they're definitely
but
perceiving.
that would help them eat the peppers.
That's true. I know that like parrots also use their tongue like a finger, right?
Yes, absolutely.
It's so funny to
Their
see.
beak is like a hand to them. There's this expert climbers, so they feel with their tongue, and so it's intimidating to new trainers if a parrot especially opens their beak
Yeah. Oh,
right
yeah.
at their hand. I'm like, oh, he's
He's checking you.
checking
he
out,
has
just
no
his
other
hand.
way to touch you. Yeah.
Yeah, he's gonna give you a little lick, see what you're all about, and get an idea of what the situation is.
But don't worry, he's not smelling you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Don't
right.
worry.
he probably can't, but we don't know.
Well, we don't know. He's doing something.
After I
he's
do a seals
sensing
and
you.
sea lion session, he's not offended, but if I smell like fish, he doesn't know.
Maybe he likes fish.
Yeah, he likes that.
This is how we found out Lola really likes seafood.
He likes sushi. That's so cool. I have a question aside before we get fully into that. Do you have any recommendations for people who aren't bird people who come and visit the aquarium? Lorikeet forest can be a little overwhelming to someone who isn't into birds. Do you have any suggestions for someone who maybe has like a slight fear or a worry?
Yeah, where do you start?
Yeah.
I wouldn't start in Lorikeet Forest. Our forest is amazing, and like I said, it's very large. But if you are bird phobic or you're just starting, that might not be your stepping stone. I would watch from the outside first, and then or come see some of our bird programs where you're at a distance where you feel comfortable. Our lorikeets. I love them. They're amazing. They have very fast metabolism. So there's 1 minute where they're completely full and you can't predict when that is. And they will not land on you. And then 20 minutes later, they're all at the front
they're on
gate.
your head.
So
Yeah.
it's a little unpredictable in
Yeah.
there. Something that I've learned and try my best to stay on top of. Yeah, so I would start small just by observing from a distance. I would watch from the outside because they'll actually come and hang and talk to you and interact with
Yeah.
you through the walls of the aviary. And so a lot of times we'll watch parents with small kids who weren't ready to go in yet watch from the outside.
Yeah.
And that's a great way
Warm
to
up
start.
to it. That's a,
yeah, you
that's
can,
a
and
great,
you can
that's
see
great
what
advice.
happens.
And also, if it's not for you, that's totally fine too. There's other ways, like you said, you can enjoy our birds here at the aquarium.
Absolutely.
Like, you're
True.
visiting the shows. They're not going to land on your head during the shows. They're not going to poop on you. Maybe they might poop on you.
Hopefully
it might
not.
happen.
Hopefully they don't land on you either.
It's also good luck if you get pooped on. Just so you
Yeah,
know.
so it'll be fine.
Yes.
I'm the luckiest person in the world.
Heather's
That's
got
awesome.
a lot of
A
luck.
lot of luck. A lot of luck. That's amazing.
Speaking sort of along those lines, I know that some people, a fear of birds is pretty normal for some people. Are there any animals that you've been, like, it's been an unexpected negative reaction when you've brought them out for a program, or unexpected fan favorites to an animal that you're like, I didn't expect people to love this animal so much? What's been your extremes on both ends for that experience?
We occasionally get the extreme where it's someone who has a phobia, and you have to realize, what do I work with? Snakes,
Yeah.
and birds,
Yeah.
which tend to be the two.
Those are high up there for some people.
The things
yeah.
that people tend
I've never
to be
heard
scared
someone
of.
say, "I'm phobic about otters.
Yeah.
Get it away from me." Like, it just doesn't happen.
I am
The
personally.
only thing you could add is like tarantulas, and then you're like, I'm
Right.
the scariest person here.
Take your pick.
Centipedes, tarantulas, snakes, and birds.
exactly.
These are what I work with.
Which I guess it's good that these are our animal ambassadors, because
Sure.
that is my job, is to educate and to change minds and to get people to appreciate all the aspects of these animals. The opposite end of that is it's just so fun when someone just lights up. And then I had somebody wanted to see me after a presentation several weeks ago, and I got a call on the radio, and I was like, oh, I don't know what that could mean. And it was like, someone wants to talk to you. Who did the last bird short? That person wants to talk to you. We have some guests here, and I'm like, do I know these people? And they're like, no, they just wanted to talk to you. And I'm like, oh, okay, what happened?
That is a scary radio call.
Right? So I came all the way up to the front, and it was a couple that were so excited about what they saw.
Aw.
And they just wanted to talk my ear off about a hawk they saw in their backyard.
Oh.
And they wanted me to say what it was, which I couldn't.
Yeah.
Like,
It looked like a bird.
Right.
It was big.
It's a pretty big
It
bird.
sounded
it's
like
got
this.
brown
Whoa.
wings and a whiter chest, and I'm like, there's so many that could
be
be. But
these, yeah.
I didn't want to squash that, so we chatted for
That's so
quite a
cool.
while.
That's
Just
cute.
their excitement was so reinforcing for me.
Yeah.
I love that about you guys, our staff here at the aquarium, where if you have the time, but after a show or between shows, and you're so passionate about your job, you're so passionate about the animals that you work with, of course you want to share them with the world. And I really appreciate it about that. I really appreciate that about your department.
I appreciate that about our guests,
Yeah.
the odd guest who comes up to you and it's like, tell me everything you know about this frog.
They're not
You're like, okay, yeah.
The guest
Yeah,
isn't
I love-
odd. It's just rare.
The one-off guest, who I
No,
love
They're
desperately.
great.
It's
They're so great.
Or
It's
they're
so
just,
awesome.
they'll ask like a question that I've never asked or thought of myself.
Yeah.
They'll be like, what are otter tongues like? And I was like, I don't know.
Let
I've
me
never
go find
looked that
out.
close at them. And then you're just like opening their mouths and you're like, and then you come back out and you're like,
Report
it looks like this. Take a picture really
I love
fast.
that. I absolutely love that.
So definitely, if you're visiting the aquarium, don't be afraid to talk to our staff members.
Yeah.
Everybody, who works with animals, or even from our education department, even our guest services staff is really knowledgeable about the animals that are here and their interesting behaviors. So.
And we want to talk
And
about
we want to
them.
talk about it.
We do. That's our job.
Yeah.
We're bridging
That's
that
why we
gap.
started this
Yeah.
podcast.
Bridging that gap from the mission of our facility and what we do for conservation, and we're bridging that gap for our guests to understand exactly what we're doing, because that is more poignant than any sign or any pamphlet.
Yeah. A social media listener wants to know how they might be able to visit some of our ambassador animals or where they might see them.
Currently, the only scheduled presentations that we're doing is in our Honda Pacific Visions at 10:30 and 2 o'clock. We do our program called Bird Shorts, which is a live animal presentation. It's always going to be a bird. That's why they're called Bird Shorts. Again, every day, 7 days a week at 10:30 and then at 2 o'clock. Those are the ones that are scheduled. And then we do unscheduled surprise visits with our ambassador reptiles. So anywhere outside, typically outside, we can be anywhere. We are going to take out a snake or a skink and be out there in the sunshine and talk to our guests. Sometimes we're on mic, sometimes we're just walking around and engaging with people on the fly.
Yeah, so just stay aware of your surroundings.
right.
around the
There may
aquarium.
be a snake behind
There may
you.
be a
That sounds
snake.
scary.
but or also really cool.
In a positive way.
In a positive way, there
snake
may be a
behind
snake. Yeah, exactly. Cool. Who's the oldest ambassador bird that we have?
Our oldest ambassador bird is Lola.
Mr. Lola.
He just squinted
Well, we
at
do
you.
have lorikeets that are older.
Oh, he blinks so hard.
He was like,
But
don't talk about
he
my age.
is 19 years old, so he is our oldest ambassador.
Wow, a
bird.
teenager. You're almost 20.
I know, right?
Almost in double
2
decades,
decades, yeah.
dude. When's his birthday? Do we know?
I have that. It's October 5th.
Oh my gosh, a Libra.
He's a Libra?
No wonder
No,
he's so
sorry,
beautiful.
October 7th, 2004.
Yeah, it turns out Lola has the same birthday as our curator. Maybe that's the connection of why he's been screaming at
Just
him.
very excited.
We have the same birthday.
Understand me.
Oh, he's communicating in his own ways.
Good job, Lola.
He's 19. Amazing.
These guys can easily live until their late 60s. Yeah.
I was gonna say too, with them being able to be purchased as pets, that's a huge commitment.
It is.
You're adopting something that
For a
could
life.
potentially
Yeah.
outlive you,
Right.
depending on your age.
We had a
too.
cockatoo. We had 2 at home, my parents growing up. And my mom she'd picked out this wallpaper that she absolutely loved. And then within one day, the cockatoo had peeled up. all the wallpaper that it could reach
Enrichment.
in a sphere around its cage.
Oh.
I love that you had cockatoos growing up and you still volunteer to work with them. Because I feel like that could easily go the
She knew
opposite
what she
way.
was getting into.
Yeah, you know, you're like, I accept you for who you are, Lola.
You don't want to know what we had growing up. We had a lot of things.
Ooh.
That's amazing. Cool. What are the role of parrots in their ecosystems? We kind of talked about they are able to carry those branches
are.
and seeds.
Their biggest thing is
Wow.
seed dispersal. Yeah, they're amazing. So yeah, they transport seeds because plants can't migrate. They need help to spread their seeds. And it's not just birds. Animals in general will spread seeds. So does wind and water. But these guys, like I said, they're highlighted as big, frequent seed dispersers, long distance. And that's their biggest role. The sulfur-crested cockatoo numbers have increased dramatically, and from what I understand, they're considered a pest, and they can be really destructive to
Lola.
some people's farms in Australia.
Yeah, I think we kind of get a couple of those comments every time
Yes.
we post because we are lucky enough to reach Australia with our social media posts. But some people are like, I have 10 of those in my backyard right now.
Yep.
It's really, I'm like, you have 10 Lolas? Lucky you.
I
They're
know.
like, I don't know about
Like,
that.
I don't know. It's crazy to see those videos where
Just
you're just like
out
someone
there.
walks outside and there's just cockatoos all over the yard and you're like, what? Have any of our ambassador animals been born at the aquarium?
Why, yes.
Why, yeah.
Very recently.
A new birth, actually.
And I can say birth because prehensile-tailed skinks actually give live birth, which is unusual for a reptile.
Yeah.
And so we have baby Mojo, who is,
And why is his name Mojo?
why, I'm glad you asked, because his dad is named Banjo and his mother is named Monkey. So we put those together.
Mojo.
Monkey and Banjo. And Mojo is one of the few times one person suggests the name and everybody agrees.
Everyone's like, yes, absolutely.
Also, Mojo's a great name for
Yeah.
the little guy. He's cute.
He's got a lot of mojo.
And he was huge being born.
Oh my gosh.
gosh.
When they're born, they're about approximately a third the size of the mother. 1/3 of the size.
Poor
and I
mom.
read
Yeah, can you imagine?
that would be like a human person giving birth to a 5-year-old. And then I stopped reading right there.
I stopped
Enough.
reading.
I know
That was
enough
enough
about
for
this.
me to hear. Yeah.
We did a whole, I mean, it was
I
basically.
am done learning today.
We did like a baby shower. We did the guess the
cute.
date that Mojo will be
Yes.
born and how big it'll be and how much it'll weigh.
I love that story because those are two animals we've had for a long time and
Yes.
have never bred, and
Right.
then all of a sudden,
Yep.
The mood
the
struck.
After 8 years.
inspiration strikes. You know,
You never know.
Especially Monkey. Monkey's one of the oldest. She's one of 2, the oldest living ever recorded prehensile-tailed
Wow.
skinks.
Really?
Yeah.
and she just had a baby.
Yeah. So I assumed
Women are
that
amazing.
that was not physically possible for her. So, and she is doing
Women
very
are
well.
amazing.
That's so cool. We have a very specific question for you from someone you might know, and it is: tell us a fun fact about red-tailed hawks. From a certain coworker of ours. Shout out Amanda. Thanks for the great question.
Red-tailed hawks, like all birds of prey, their vision's 10 times better than our own, and their speed is incredible. So the fastest animal in the world, everyone thinks, is the cheetah. But actually, there are many birds, even some fish, that go faster than the speed of a cheetah. And the fastest animal in the world is a raptor. Now, eagles can go 70 to 80 miles an hour.
Really?
Hawk, like Lyra, 120 miles per hour. And this is referred to as a stoop. So this is not flying and gliding out in the air like you see them doing. This is when they tuck up their wings and dive like a bullet going after their prey. A lot of times it's the impact alone that kills their prey, not necessarily the sharp talons. It's just that impact coming in. But the fastest of the raptors is the falcons, and the fastest of the falcons is the North American peregrine falcon at 242 miles per hour.
That's crazy. Are they like, I was going to ask it in the stupidest way. I was going to say, are they like built different? Like,
Built different.
like when I think of
love
birds,
this podcast.
are they built
So are
different?
like they built different?
When I think about birds, like songbirds, little birds, they weigh nothing. They have hollow bones.
Yeah.
They like, you could look at them and their bones seem like they're going to break at any second. But I can't imagine diving at 240 miles an hour
right?
and landing on something. And yeah, the impact kills the thing, but how does the impact not kill the bird?
Right?
How are they, do they like put their wings out at the last second and they like stop themselves? Like how,
They're
and
built
also
different.
how do they're just built
They're just
different.
built
Are
different.
their legs like
There,
different
I'll
bones?
explain exactly how they're built different. For the coolest fact, there's lots of difference. a lot of different facts to talk about, but my all-time favorite, and this is a falcon thing, they have a tiny twist of bone and skin in their nostrils. So if you look, it's like a little island in the middle of each nostril, and it's just bone and skin. And so as they're diving, and you can imagine if you've ever been in a car on the freeway, and as a kid you ever stick your hand out the window and watch that force of air push your hand backwards, that's just going the speed limit. Hopefully.
Maybe
But for an animal that can physically reach the type of speeds that a falcon can, that force of wind hitting their face, if they were trying to take a breath, it could explode their lungs.
Whoa.
And what that twist of bone and skin does, it breaks up the wind and it protects their lungs. So when they're doing that dive from several hundred feet in the air, they could breathe normally safely. Isn't that the coolest?
They're built
built
different.
They're built different.
So
They
different.
really are.
That's so cool. Birds are amazing.
If I had that, I would probably get surgery for like a deviated septum, you know, like, and then for them, they're like, I need this so that I
need
don't
this.
explode while I'm.
Well, if you had that, then you could maybe dive from at about 280 miles
I think
per hour.
I could do that. I just don't think I could stop. I'm just going to install a twist of bone and skin
Yeah.
in my nose. Let me do
Then
that
you're
real
set.
fast.
Then you're
Like,
invincible.
what is that? Pick
What
it
is-
up.
Don't worry
Heather,
about
stop
it.
picking your
Don't
nose.
worry
I'm trying
about
to
it.
get
Don't
that
worry
twist.
about it.
It's actually the twist for my dive. You wouldn't understand. you, you wouldn't get it.
You don't understand. I'm built
You're
different.
not a falcon. I'm fed up. Okay, we're done. We're done.
Full circle that back.
I know. Good job, Erin.
Full circle.
Good
full
job.
circle.
Well done.
All right.
Okay, before we end, is there any favorite stories you have of working with the birds that you would like to share? I feel like every day is something new, so I'm sure it's hard to keep track of them, but do any stories stick out?
So Sula, which we haven't talked about Sula quite enough for the amazing bird that she is.
Yeah, we could do a whole episode on Sula.
Right? Our
Okay.
red-footed booby. She's relatively new to doing these big theater shows, our bird shorts. And she flies, and we make it different each time, kind of mix it up. But she does one A to B, which is point A, flight to point B, and I'm talking the show. And when I'm talking, these are animals that can be unpredictable and things can happen. And my job is to keep talking as if it was part of the presentation, no matter what happens.
According to plan. Mhm.
And so lately, she has been feeling more comfortable, and she's been deciding to do flights that don't land on my arm and fly past me with a little bit of side eye.
Yeah.
And
Like,
so,
bye.
I'm sitting here like an idiot with my arm out, and I've learned not to say. And she's going to fly right over here to me, and she flies, and she's going to land. I can see her, and then I can just see her face, her eyes disconnect from me and look past me. And then she just keeps going,
Just in
and she
slow
makes this
motion.
beautiful circle across. We have a beautiful beachy sunset backdrop, and you see her fly across this gorgeous setting
As if it was planned.
as if it was
Beautiful.
planned. And that's exactly
Yeah.
what I do. I'm like, she is going to take this time to stretch her wings and give you a gorgeous look at how beautiful these
Great
birds fly,
recovery.
right?
Yep.
And
Yeah.
just even though inside I'm dying, like,
Yeah.
where's you going to go? Don't hurt
Yeah.
yourself. Really make
Yeah,
sure
yeah.
everything's safe. Like, where's my co-trainer?
Yeah.
What's going on?
On it. Mhm.
Why would she do this? We'll talk about it later. And then she lands on the back of someone's seat.
Really?
She does. Fortunately,
Right here is good.
nothing came out of her.
Yeah, exactly.
There was no good luck
Oh
at that
my
point.
gosh. Okay, so go to bird shorts if you got a good attitude about maybe getting up close to an animal, because it could happen.
I
It's
think
so.
unpredictable.
Definitely.
So just like, I'm a pelagic bird. I'm going to demonstrate me flying over the
Right.
ocean. Then I'm going to make friends with this guy.
Right?
What's up? What's your name?
Hey,
Tell me
what's
about
up?
Hey, did you got a squid for me?
By chance, everyone else seems to. So. Oh, Sula.
You got a blue shirt on today. You work here?
It's
You
funny.
hang out around here sometimes?
You around here much?
That's amazing. Cool. Thank you so much, Heather. This was a really fun episode. I learned so much about our ambassador birds, and like I said, we could really do an episode on each one. So maybe that'll come in the
Yeah.
future.
Thank you for
Just a
having
whole
me. This has
season of
been a lot of
ambassador
fun.
birds.
This
Thank
has been
you.
a really good time. I think the funniest thing is that we have this
We-
gregarious, amazing program animal right here with us, and he's just been so nervous about the new setting that like
know.
it's actually a great opportunity. Our real last question that we can edit in at the end is we wanted to know what Lola's best animal impression is.
Sea lion. You're a very pretty bird. What kind of bird? It's time to use my teapot. Good. What's that? Shark. Good.
Whoa,
It is a shark. Good. That's our favorite game to play is peekaboo.
Peekaboo.
Let's do that one again because that's pretty fun. Let's do it again. Good. If I scratch my head and say, let's think, he scratches his head and says, where's your brain? Let's do it. Let's think. Where's your brain? Good. Monster. Good.
Bye, Lola.
Bye, Lola.
Love you, Lola. Aquarium of the Podcific is brought to you by Aquarium of the Pacific, a 501c3 nonprofit organization. In 2023, the aquarium celebrates 25 years of connecting millions of people worldwide to the beauty and wonder of our ocean planet. Head to aquariumofpacific.org to learn more about our 25th anniversary celebration. Keep up with the aquarium on social media at Aquarium Pacific on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn.
This podcast is produced by Aaron Lundy, Madeline Walden, and Scott Shaw. Our music is by Andrew Reitzma, and our podcast art is by Brandy Kenny. Special thanks to Cecile Fisher, Anitza Valles, and our audiovisual and education departments, and to all of our amazing podcast guests for taking time out of their day to talk about the important work that they do. Podcific wouldn't be possible without the support of the aquarium's donors, members, guests, and supporters. Thanks for listening.